Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Akakudash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles at Great Millstone that taught us this 100% true doctrine. Shalom to you, Archeons, pushing this word in sincerity and truth. Shalom to you, few and faithful Aquats, being obedient unto your husband and taking this word in silence. This is your brother Yassad back at you with another lesson. We're going to edify to the spirit and power of your Bashim and Shai. So basically this video based on the true nature what they call emancipation, right? Because Esau Edom, he is such a good supplanter unto the people, you know. Because look at the state, you know, they say we the slaves was free and X, Y, and Z, but it's all lies. We still in mental chains, and we're not physically under chains, but we under a stronger chain now. Because look at our people. The slave owners don't have to maintain the slaves anymore, but here it is, the slaves clothing themselves, still doing the work that they was doing before, right? Having to house themselves, and we'll go through what was taking place back then, you know, after so-called emancipation and the slaves being free, right? Because the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Hispanics, they can never make it, you know, on this side to the level of Esau Edom, you know, because the scriptures say we're gonna be taken into Egypt by the way of ships, you know, for bondmen and bondwomen, and nobody not gonna buy us, nobody not gonna redeem us out of this, right? We was never redeemed, you know. It was, that is just a whole I would say mental genocide took place there, right? But let me go into it. I'll just read this article and we'll go through a couple things. You know, this video might be a little lengthy. It say Ashanti King songs warning freedom to wallow in poverty is not emancipation. It's not emancipation. Because take stock. Let's come here and right, the word emancipation, the meaning, you know, it's a true the proclamation initial impact was limited. The order was true to the etymology, which is I think is eta is study, and ology is I think is truth. It just slipped my mind at the moment, but it goes into study or something. It's of emancipation, which comes from a Latin word combining the prefix e meaning away and mancipare, meaning to transfer ownership of. So before the slaves would have be, well, Mr. Harrison or Harry Potter would have owned 5,000 slaves. So the slaves would have documents being property of Mr. Harry Potter, for example. But now there's a new system where the so-called free the slaves. But we'll go into what took place after the so-called freeing of the slaves. So let me go back at this. It says the Ashanti king has warned people, especially those of African descent, which we are not Africans, right, that there can be no true emancipation with poverty, crime, and violence. And it's true. And our poverty has 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 to be, the curses, the fact, and Esau Edom played that picture us being in poverty, because even after slavery, when we started to build our so-called black communities, Esau Edom found ways to destroy it, so that we could never rise. Well, we'll go all into that. It says he was speaking at the nation's guest of honor at Emancipation Day celebrations on Tuesday afternoon. It say Ashanti King in Ghana began his address by mourning that many lives lost to the transatlantic slave trade between West Africa and the Americas, including the Caribbean. So that topic had to be brought up. It's all about emancipation and we was freed and this, but they didn't check stock at the amount of lives lost that Esau Edom shew his perpetual hatred unto Jacob, because the Lord spoke of all these things, that this would happen to us, that we would be, taken into Egypt, which is into bondage again through ships, right? And the transatlantic slave trade was carried out by ships. It said he also hailed through who advocated African pride, such as Marcus Garvey and Trinidad-born C.L.R. James, whatsoever. The latter King Tutu too said had inspired Ghanaian independence leader Kwame Nkrumah and South African freedom fighter and former President Nelson Mandela. Well, we ain't gonna go too much down into it. Let's say he asked if people of African descent now enjoy real freedom, if they are still dependent on others, still face bigotry. Right, I'll read that. Let's say, but he questioned the current status of African people and asked, what is true emancipation? He asks if people of African descent now enjoy real freedom, if they are still dependent on others, still face bigotry, and even as sportsmen and sportswomen still suffer taunts on the sports field. And really and truly, we're not really free, because one is property of the state. And the precept in the book, I'm gonna get that, Baruch. The book of Baruch, chapter 2 and 20. No. So right, Baruch 3 and 8. It says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse. So that is why he mentioned bigotry, he mentioned, racial discrimination, right? That all these things remain, because the scripture say we gonna be a byword and a reproach amongst the nations. It's a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Right? So we not free, right? And are some things to go into, right? So first we just went into that. So now, right, let's go a bit into what took place after slavery, right? Let's see. This. Right. Let's see. Right. Emancipation period. Let's say the Emancipation Bill passed in British Parliament 1833 brought the end of slavery in 1834. However, a new system of slavery commenced. The Emancipation Act stipulated that apprenticeship was a compromise to plantation owners as they resented the end of slavery. Under the apprenticeship system, agricultural and non-agricultural slaves worked 40 hours per week, because here it say a new system of slavery commenced. It's in exchange for housing, clothes, food, medical attendance, and small wages. Hadn't the scripture say what? Haggai. And hey, we still under slavery, because one we still subject to payments, and we'll go into it more at how terrible it is, and the state our people. I'll let the precept Haggai 1 and verses 6. Let's see 1 and 5. It's now therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Ye have sown much, so you work 40 hours per week, and you're bringing in little, small wages. And what? That small wages is for what? For housing, for clothes, and for food. From the same massa. Let's say ye drink, but they are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put into a bag of holes. So when the so-called slaves was free, the same under the new slavery system that commenced, they would have had to go back to massa to rent, to pay a rent, because it's so-called free. So now they would have had to work back by massa, go back to the same plantation for a little small scrums, and buy food from massa, because massa would have the plantation, massa would have only the markets and the food stalls and X, Y, and Z. So basically it was slavery all over again, but what? The slave would have to take care of his own self and pay rent from the so-called white man. So he benefited much better, because when he is a slave owner, you would have maintenance of the slave. You would have to feed the slave, clothe the slave, pay the slave. So all of this would have be expense on the slave owner's end. But now the slave is clothing his own self, feeding his own self, coming and renting, and also working for you. Right? So you see where the so-called white man and these other nations profited. Right? I'm gonna get back at the article. Let's see. Right, on August 1st, 1838, the enslaved were finally emancipated from plantation across the British Caribbean. The newly freed Africans, which we are not Africans, the Israelites, because the Israelites who was taken into captivity, the southern and the northern kingdom, as the precepts say. Right, Jeremiah 50:33, it said, thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah, so the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, were pressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. So here it is now. Let's look at it. Here it is now. We so-called free, but we back at the massa. Emancipation was just a transfer of ownership, right? So everything is just a cover up. The so-called state, they are the owners of the state, because when they own the central banks. Listen this, one of the slave owners, the one of the central bank, you know, shareholders say, right? It says, right. Let's look at some of the quotes. It's a Rothschild, Amschel Rothschild, Mayor Amschel Rothschild. It's a give me control of a nation's money supply. Do they not own the central banks? The 1%, the Rockefellers, the Rothschild, the Bilderbergers, the DuPonts, do they not own the central banks? Wasn't the world not given into their hands? It said give me control of a nation's money and they own the money. Because all bank go back to the central bank, and we in Trinidad we don't print our own money. And I care not who make it laws. Because the same state, they do business. Kamala could be in power, Rowley could be in power. It don't matter, their laws, their motives are still being set forth. And we'll go into that precept in the book of First Maccabees. Let's say another one. Right, Nathan Rothschild, I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England or rule the empire or rule the countries, or which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls British empire. And look at it, all the wars that are actually happening, World War II, World War II, who was funding these things? The same slave owners, right? Let's say I control the British money. It's say the money supply. It's say the man who controls British money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. So we getting what it looking at strictly here, precept to back that up, because they would have this whole voting system in Trinidad, and that's all a facade. You stupid jakes out here going and vote when you not even electing anyone, because it is all staged, it is all programmed, it is all set. I'm gonna get that First Maccabees 8:15. Right. The scriptures will lie. It say moreover how they had made for themselves a Senate house. Do we not have a Senate house down here? Where they're in. I'll get a little meat on this. Then we'll go at verse 13. It say, alright. Also that whom they held to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they displace. So going back to what? They will set up Rowley to rule 45 years. They will displace he and set up Kamala, and so it's going, because they in control, right? They are the elites, they run in the country. They have a central bank down here, and money runs the world. Let's say, and whom they again would they displace, finally they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple. These elites are in the shadows. You don't really see them on the front line and this and that. Watch for this whole agenda being pushed. That's their whole plan. But they would have the frontline men like they call them Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and these men pushing these things. They own all these organizations, the WHO, the WF, because they own the world, they control the world. The Lord said what? He set up the bases are men, right? And we know Job 9:20, for the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And it's proven that the wicked is the so-called white man, Esau, Edom. Let's see. Yet for all this, none of them were crowned or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end that they may be well ordered, and that they, because, hey, same thing here, right? Because literally is they passing down the order and setting who they want in the position, to carry out their orders. Because, hey, as Maya and Nathan shall Nathan Rothschild say, what, he don't care which puppet sits in that position. It's saying that they committed their government, which is governors to control and men going into mine, to one man every year. Well, now it's every 5 years, though, in Trinidad here, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them, because they are puppets. They are all puppets, right? Well, that was just a little thing, but let me go straight from the topic. All this is all a part of it too. So basically, we see where, emancipation, what took place after. And look, as I was mentioning, I used to bring this precept here, Isaiah 14, right? Well, let me just get a little small context. The book of Psalms 83, right? We bring all this a lot. Psalms 83 and verses 2, it says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. So our enemies making that tumult, that noise of war, our enemies lift up the head. They come above us by we transgression and going off. So the Lord said the heathens above us, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, as the man mentioned the transatlantic slave trade. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a people, being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. So all these nations are allied with Esau Edom's plan. That is why in the chain here you would see Esau Edom, the so-called white man, the first, is the first nation on the chart that took part and led the transatlantic slave trade. The destruction mentally, physically of our people. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites in Moab. And these nations that are called them now, we will see that they excel, they gain great riches, and they have it in this life here because what? They benefited off our slavery, right? Isaiah 14, let me get the Obadiah first. That would back that up. Obadiah 1 and 12. Let's say, but right, I'll start at verses 10. I must start at 9. And I eat. Shall not I in that day, say the Lord, even destroy the wise men of Edom, and the understanding out of Esau, the mount of Esau, and thy mighty men? O Teman, shall they be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau shall be cut off by slaughter. For the Lord have perpetual hatred. The Lord say what? Unto Amalek he gonna have war to Amalek from generation to generation. Even in Malachi 1 and 4 he say Esau is the border of wickedness whom he gonna have indignation forever against. Right? It say, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Was that violence where he showed the perpetual hatred in 70 AD, destroying our city. The first destruction of our city, he went hand in hand, to destroy our city, and then 70 AD Vespasian, Edomites destroyed the Jerusalem, kill our people, put us in chains, the Renaissance period, the transatlantic slave trade, the Lord bringing, the Lord exposing the violence against Jacob. And it says, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in that day the strangers carried away captives his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast a lot upon Jerusalem. By them casting lot as well. Hey, five, nigga here. When they were selling us unto the other nations, and benefiting greatly of we. It say, even thou was one of them, because he saw Edom was, he's the major one, who was one of them that took us into captivity and sold us, had us working free and building up his walls, But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in that day that he became a stranger, neither thou shouldest have rejoiced over the children of Judah in their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Yeah, because, let's take a look at the pride that Esau Edom when he had us in slavery, and even now was Solomon too. I'll start at verses 5. It says, come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present. So they having us in slavery, and even after slavery, even now they enjoy themselves, because why? As I just made the point, how after so-called emancipation, we still had to go back to massa on his plantation working. Now we mining ourselves, feeding ourselves, and still doing massa's work. So that is a new slave system, And the scripture says we are yet this day in our captivity. It say, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures, like as in youth. So, that was always on their mind. The scripture say what? That they send each other a gift, When that is in the book of Revelation, it say, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gift one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell upon the earth. So these nations send gift one to another, while we was in slavery, and they even sending gift one to another now, because think about it, Jake didn't rise up, on their level yet. Jake still throwing out trash, being behind the garbage trucks, doing all the drain works, all the off scouring work on the earth. Jake there, because the scriptures say we're gonna be the tail and they be in the head. The curses, that the Lord pronounced against us if we didn't hearken. Alright, so back at it. I'm gonna get another thing here because precept. Alright. Because as I was mentioning, when after so-called emancipation and Jake started to catch back themselves after working all them hundreds of years trying to build something, build a community, look what took place. Let me read through a bit. It's in not just Tulsa race massacres that devastated black communities in Rosewood, Atlanta, and other American cities. There's a long history of white terrorism destroying black communities. The Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre is now due to the work of scholars and historians and a known act of terrorism, because basically when Jake would have rise up and started to build their own communities, open their own hospitals, and the so-called white man showed off his perpetual hatred against Jacob, made up slanders, as the scripture says in Psalm 50, thou slanderest thy mother's son. The situation in in Wall Street, where the woman is only obvious. The so-called white teen that we know that was a lie, because the scriptures say what, the wicked go it forth from the womb speaking lies. So she slandered Jake about he trying to rape her, and look how it turned out. So I'll go into it and say I've told the story about 1921 massacre that permanently altered the fate of successful community known as Black Wall Street. In May 1921, a 17-year-old white girl accused black teenager of assault in downtown Tulsa. The white terrorism ensued. There have been countless reports, including from that 300 and more people were murdered in an act of bloody white terrorism. The media of the time downplayed the destruction of the prosperous community. So they burned down the buildings because they see Jake starting to excel a bit, starting to come up, starting to open, doing good for themselves after they done work all these years, hundreds of years from massa, having to rent from massa, feed themselves, clothe themselves. It's just terrible. It said that that toll was originally reported 36. However, you don't have to be forensic archaeologists to surmise that more than 36 people were killed. Right. Oh my god, next one. The Colfax, Louisiana massacre. Despite some black claiming Americans were great for black people, 7 years after the Civil War, black men and women were being massacred in plain sight during the Reconstruction era. One of the most horrific incidents that we know of was April 1873. Colfax, Louisiana, approximately 150 black men were murdered by white men with guns and cannons for trying to freely assemble at the courthouse. And that's it, Esau, Edom, they in power, so they had the ability to do these things. And hey, the scripture says no man no can buy we out of this. We'll go until we oppress in want. As the scripture says, back it up. Isaiah the book of Isaiah 42:22. It say, this is a people robbed and spoiled. So, hey, after slavery and so-called emancipation, after we still going back to massa, working hard, having for small wages that could have barely even feed them, had to rent for massa, had to buy food for massa, and now, after them hundreds of years of grinding it, Jake started to build the communities. But what? The so-called white man having a hatred toward Jake, burned down the cities, burn down the communities, kill the blacks, do all these things, show off their so-called their racism against Jake. It say they are all of them snared in holes, and they are hidden prison houses. They are for a prey, and none deliver it, for a spoil, and none say it restore. Cause they Israel is not even restored up to now. We in a more worse case, because now they bring in what religio, religion, a Greek word, divide and to rule. How people mentally destroyed, running after the bag, serving Esau Edom system, and hey, we're gonna be in a more messed up state when he comes out with his agenda. Now we're gonna see who we really belong to when massa decides to put a imprint on all his stock. So back at the article. Alright, so you see, Jake haven't been emancipation, nothing. Another one, Wilmington, North Carolina massacre. It was a thriving area with a majority black population that was also several black elected public officials, forcing whites to share power. However, the threat of Negro rule. So Esau Edom again, don't want to see Jake in no position, created ideological white racism resentment. The media frequently reported earnestly the white womanhood was threatened by black men. Again, slander. A Wilmington newspaper printed by speech by a Georgia feminist that read, if it requires lynching to protect the woman's dearest possession from a ravening, drunken, human beast, that I say, and these were the words that they used to describe Jake, 1,000 Negroes a week, it is necessary. So here the remarks. Then I said, lynch 1,000 niggers a week if it is necessary. So we people didn't went through one thing, by the election of 1898, black men were prevented from voting to push out the black elected officials. The white supremacists could not stop the economic power that blacks had already created. Therefore, they destroyed Wilmington with terrorism. Right? Let's say whites announced the White Declaration of Independence. They overthrew Wilmington government, destroyed the printing press, forced out the mayor, and a mob of white men attacked black residents. They reported 60 to 300 black people killed by this act of domestic terrorism for over 100 years. The powers that be in Wilmington tried to erase the massacre in its history. And we could read on and on and more and more and more and more and more massacres. Elling, Arkansas. And we could go more and more and it won't stop. We people haven't been through one thing. And here it is. The scripture say, well, we snared in holes, in the prison house. Because look at the next thing that was happening after slavery was what? When we had no places to go, we was being thrown into the prison through loitering. And look at instance here. It's Ahmaud Arbery and the racist history of loitering laws. America has long punished black men for nothing more than being out in public. Alright, so this guy went for a jog in neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia, a coastal town south of Savannah, in late February. He paused to look around a construction site of a new house. Then, in the middle of his run, a newly public video reveals he was confronted by Gregory and Travis McMichael, the father-son duo. The father, Gregory, a retired police officer who'd seen Arbery and decided he looked like a local burglary suspect. So again, Jake being a byword and a proverb. Jake is the thieves, Jake is the killers, Jake is the gangsters. And these things what Esau Edom did is they bringing in the guns, they bringing in the drugs and destroying the people. Let's say arming themselves with a 357 Magnum and a shotgun. The McMichael, who were white, again the so-called white man Esau Edom, chased Arbery, who was black, with a pickup truck. The video doesn't always keep the three men in frame, but we see Arbery attempt to go around the pickup, only to be intercepted by Michael whatsoever with the shotgun. There's a shot, then the two men tussle from the weapon, then another shot at point blank range, after which Arbery stumbles away, attempting to run before collapsing dead. Right? And that is a joke, because during that time there was laws about loitering, where a lot of so-called blacks was thrown into prison because one, they just came out of slavery, so-called emancipation. They had no way to go. So these slaves would have been like, like vagrants, and it had vagrancy laws, you know, against that in that time. So Jake is messed up, and now Jake more messed up, because hey, let me get that precept. Um, in the book of Zechariah 11:15, 11 and 5. Let's say, I must see Zechariah 11 and start at 3. It said, "This is a voice of the howling of a shepherd, for their glory is spoiled. A voice of the roaring of young lions, for the pride of Jordan is spoiled." I mean, Jordan River, representation of Israel. "Thus said the Lord, my power, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose oppressors slay them." How much was killed during these massacres? How much was killed during on the ships? How much was killed, after slavery? Through racism and white, discrimination, so-called black discrimination, and hold themselves not guilty. Even now, they would say what? We didn't do that, our forefathers did it, but they benefiting off of it. It's and they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich." So they being prideful and being, comfortable selling Jake. But hey, there's a price to pay for that. As they say, "For I am rich," and their owners pity them not. They didn't have no mercy on us. That's why Revelation 12 and hey, how do you really receive so-called freedom yet? Revelation, I'll just end off for this last precept, Revelation 13 and 10. It says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. He is a patient and the faith of the saints." Well, hopefully this lesson was edifying. Double honors unto the elders and apostles, a great millstone. Salutation to you, Archeans, pushing this word in sincerity and truth. Until the next one, Shalom.